I'm currently sitting in a dirty motel and I don't know where I am. One minute I was in my hometown, the next I'm here in the void that is the Arizona desert. I was hoping someone could help me, or if they have experienced this. A couple weeks ago, I was at a gathering with some college friends who had gone separate ways since graduating 8 years ago. We were drinking and reminiscing about our glory days at university, and eventually began telling stories of our hometowns. Dan mentioned his time growing up in Boston. Terry got poetic about Lancaster, PA, Amber in San Jose, and Jewel somewhere outside Houston. When it got to me, I almost tripped over my words. For some reason, the name wasn't on the tip of my tongue. I really miss the Ray's Diner. The hills were always cool during the spring, and there's a really cool lake just outside of town. What town is it? Dan asked. I'm from Arizona. What's the name of the place? It's in between Sedona and Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. Dan let out a light laugh. The name? I felt like the words were stuck in my head somewhere. Is this the town that must not be named? Amber mused sarcastically. A few more people giggled. Dan started to look up Ray's Deli on his phone. There's a bunch of Ray's Delis and none are in the area. I mean, it might have been called something else. Amber got a little more serious. Do you really not know the name of your own hometown? Or are you just fucking with us? The amusement of my friends turned to mild concern when I opened my mouth and silence came out. Are you feeling okay? Amber asked. I need to think about this. Normally I just say, the Sedona area. Most people aren't from there, so it normally suffices. To be honest, I don't think about the place that much anymore, and never think of visiting. Really? Julie inquired. Okay, you should still know the name of your hometown. Amber laughed with concern. Do you? I looked around the room like the answer could be found on the walls or decor. I guess not, I uttered with a sense of confused disappointment. Interesting. I guess Rena's from nowhere, and has just been a figment of someone's imagination this whole time, Dan said, as he giggled and took a sip of his beer. Can you find it on a map? I think so. I took out my phone and begun searching maps for what I could recognize as my town. I saw nothing that looked familiar, and the party conveniently moved on. Later that night, some of Dan's local friends came over to bring in the cheer while I spent time in the background trying to text Callie, who I, up until I moved out, had been inseparable with since the age of 7. Callie was one of those people you'd meet and agree to see a movie you hated just for the chance to share some community gossip. That is how we became friends. She asked if I wanted to see Spy Kids, and even though the thought of the film made me want to scream, I offered to get my mom to drive us. Fast forward a few months, and it became weirder to see us apart than it was to be seen alone. We hung out at recess, took bathroom breaks during class together, hung out after school whenever free, and made an effort to join the same clubs until halfway through middle school, when our age made it necessary to develop a personality outside each other. We drifted a bit after entering high school, but made an effort to chat online or via text and schedule day trips when possible. Despite our drift, we managed to remain close until our best friend streak ended with us going to separate colleges. We had one final night of celebration where we said we loved each other and we'd keep in touch. That was the last time I remember speaking with her. As I searched my phone, I couldn't help but wonder if this was a good way to break our silence after all these years. Hey, Cal. No, we haven't spoken in a decade, but what's the name of our hometown? You know, the place we spent almost the first decades of our life, half of which we spent together. What a way to let someone know you miss them. I couldn't find Callie's number and began to wonder if I deleted it after switching phones. I did a quick Facebook search, but Callie was nowhere to be found. I figured she might have deleted it like other people in my life who went on the social media exodus. I decided to wait till I got home and check the time capsule that is my old laptop. Once home, I did a deep search of my computer and found a folder titled August 07. that contained the photos of Callie and me by the lake. If it weren't for the shape of the lake, I wouldn't have recognized the picture as they were so blown up and blotchy. You couldn't tell if you were looking at us or an advertisement for a modern art exhibit. Standing in the back left corner was a woman. She hadn't been affected by the degradation, but I didn't recognize her. Every pic I'd found of my hometown all looked like I'd put a magnet on the screen of a TV and made me or any of my friends distorted beyond recognition. The only thing you could see clearly was that same girl I didn't seem to remember. The girl was as alien to me as a stranger on the bus, yet I felt like I knew her. I dug through social media looking up anyone I knew who grew up in town, but all the people I thought I knew and would see in passing while browsing Facebook turned out to be strangers. While searching the Facebook and Instagram profiles of the people from my youth who I'd pass by without so much as a peek, I realized those people had been strangers this whole time. My friend Kevin from Woodshop turned out to be a random Kevin from Minnesota. It was the same with my friend Melissa from theater, Amanda from dance, and Wade from my English class. They were all strangers, and I couldn't find anybody I grew up with. It took me a while to find my mom's new number. She had changed it a few times since she moved out of our hometown, as she has what I like to call landline mentality. She changed her cell number when she moved, because it felt like a real change. And holding on to an old phone number is like having an umbilical cord connect you back to your old town. She felt that having keepsakes of your past was like having a toxic pump, sending old memories back into your body. She has always been a bit of a drifter. I found her number under Mom 3. I hadn't called either of my parents in about a year and a half, and I wasn't sure if this was the best use of family time. My mom answered after the 8th ring, which had to mean she's having a good time.
Hello, sweetie?
I almost didn't recognize her voice. It was like she was tired on a grand scale. Hi, Mom.
How are you? How's life in the city?
It's good. Hey, I was wondering if you had any info on our hometown. The phone got silent for a few moments. Mom?
Oh, sorry, honey. What about the town?
I wanted to know what was going on with our hometown. I can't remember a lot about it for some reason.
I don't remember too much about it either. Have you asked your old friends?
I tried, but I can't find their info. Plus, the pictures on my computer were distorted for some reason.
It might be for the best.
Why? It wouldn't be such a bad idea to talk to some of my old friends. The phone went dead. I tried calling her back, but I went straight to voicemail. My mom was weird, but I felt like I was talking to another person. I sent her a text. Hey, I think I lost you. I sat on the sofa for another 10 minutes, wondering why she was acting so paranoid about the town. I figured she was just sick and wasn't really paying attention, causing her to just say what she thought I'd like to hear. She used to be good at that, but the cracks started showing as I got older and her answers started to sound more basic. I think I'm hanging with Matt on Friday. His parents bought a ping pong table. Oh, I heard those were dangerous. I got jolted by a text message from her. Fisher, Issa, Hogate, and Garrison. I texted back. What does this mean? I didn't get anything back from her the rest of the night and questioned whether or not I wanted to talk to her anyways. It wasn't like her to be cryptic, but figured I would play her game. I searched the name she gave me and found a number of unrelated sources of real estate agents, plumbers, social media posts, and other sites I'm unable to remember. My eyes fell on this news site with the article "Local Deli Vandalized on Garrison Street." I froze when I saw the spot Cassie and I would spend most of our free time in middle school. Wattonville. My hometown is named Wattonville. I left a week after the call with my mom. For whatever reason, she never turned her phone back on, and after a couple of days, I was unable to even leave a voicemail. I figured I'd just enjoy the drive home and get back to her another time. Driving on these old roads felt like a dream of summer days past blurring together into one giant day that became legendary, only my friends and me. I passed the quaint "Welcome to Wattonville" sign and was amazed at the town's ability to keep its identity after all these years. I pulled onto Garrison Street and got giddy over seeing all the shops of my youth. The ice cream shop was vibrant, the bookstore was busy, and all the fall decorations were in full swing. I found the local haunt where Callie and I would spend most of our free time eating food and avoiding our parents. I got out of my car and stared at the old sign that would let you know school was over and it was time to relax. I turned to look at the Wattonville entrance sign I passed in the distance, and it looked like it had rusted since I passed it a minute ago. I remember being surprised at how the sign appeared so brand new considering it had been there for more than a decade. I chalked it up to good cosmetic paint and carried on to the deli. I burst into Ray's deli to see an old face behind the counter playing on his phone. "Ray." He looked up at and tried to feign interest. "Well, hi, how's it going? I miss this place. Has business been good?" "It's here and there." "I apologize. Where did we meet again?" A bit shocked, I proceeded to chive him. "It's me, Rena." "Okay. We used to hang here after school from 06 to 09. Callie and me. Do you still see her?" Ray had the look of someone going to the gym against his will. "I'm sorry, I see a lot of faces, and that was a long time ago." "Do you still see anyone from that time come around?" He looked at me like I asked him if he had seen Bigfoot in the air vents. "We never got a lot of teens coming here to hang. The ones who did were sorta a nuisance. That's why we had to paint over the graffiti on the walls." He pointed to the wall next to the entrance. I was stunned to see the wall that was white when I walked in was now blue. That was strange. I know I saw a white wall a second ago. I got a chill up my spine and decided it wasn't worth the effort trying to make Ray remember me. It's not like we were close. "Well, maybe I got the wrong deli. Sorry to bother you." I headed towards the exit. "Oh, don't feel bad." Ray sounded genuinely sympathetic. "I've been working here so long, and I'm coming along in age. There ain't a lot I remember." I turned and smiled. "It's okay. It's just nice to be back in town." Despite being less than a foot away from him a second ago, it was only now I realized how much he had aged. Somehow, during our conversation, I missed the wrinkles on his face and the dark spots on his arm that could only come from father time. His teeth had become a darker shade of yellow that I never thought existed. This sudden change gave me chills so deep I needed a winter coat. I shook my head, thanked Ray, and shuffled out of the store. I left the store in shock of Ray's sudden burst of age, and the thought that he could have forgotten us when we practically lived at the place. I guess I had to chalk this up to growing up and realizing that some people didn't think about you as much as you thought. I turned to give the place one last look and felt shook at the sign now read Matcha Town. I looked back and forth, but Ray's was gone as if I walked into the wrong store. I looked inside to see if I just missed the title, but the store was completely different with a new cast of people that I didn't recognize from half a minute ago. I walked back into the store to prove I was just delirious, but what I entered was an upscale matcha tea store. I turned and ran out as a contrast to the ambient jazz and peaceful tea aficionados that sat in what should have been the ruins of my childhood. I jumped in my car and drove south down Garrison Street, noticing the first time since I arrived home that the main drag looked remodeled like a cute strip mall that sprung up overnight. I looked for stores I could have sworn were there before I walked in Ray's, but found that I might have been imagining things. Maybe I was so homesick, I made up an entire conversation. The only building that made me feel like I was in the right place was the post office I'd always pass on my way to school. As I drove, I came by my old high school, and it looked surprisingly similar to when I used to attend the place. Normally a school will do some renovations, but it looked as if the district wanted to keep it as a time capsule to preserve a certain style. I parked and got out to take a good look at the place and noticed some of the finger marks on the windows were still there. I saw the initials I smudged on the front window on my last day and wondered why it hadn't been cleaned. I opened the door to my past and went to the front desk. "Hi, I'm Rena Winkle. I went to this school and wondered if I could look at a yearbook. I was class of 09. The clerk brought out an 09 yearbook. Here, kind of a small class that year. I flipped through the yearbook looking for Callie, but she was missing. Excuse me, I think there are people missing from this book. Was it edited? The clerk gave me a puzzled look. I don't think so. I'm not sure why we'd do that. That book has been here as long as I can remember. I looked for my friend Matt. Like Callie, he was not in his spot. I remembered a quote about never becoming his father, who was also one of the teachers. I just can't find people who I know were on here. Is there any chance that the book had two versions? She gave me a quizzical look. I don't think so, especially that year considering we had less people attending. It wouldn't have been practical. I saw Mr. Pruder, my old gym teacher, walk in looking at papers. Hey, Mr. Pruder. He looked at me like he got the wrong food at a drive-thru. Hey, how's it going? I sensed his hesitation. Do you remember me, Rena? From third period back in 08, you helped bandage my shins after that accident. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry, let's talk a little later. I have to finish a few things. He sped into another room like he was trying to avoid hugging a drunk aunt. I left the building feeling like I got rejected by my own past. I turned to see if the same stickers were still on the back door and almost screamed at the realization that the school had changed. The building appeared modern and had a new gate. Maybe I was losing it. I had heard of having a type of mental illness where you're just stuck in a delusion until you see a certain reality that you've been avoiding. The only problem with that theory is I'm not trying to avoid anything. I peeked inside the office and it was closed and had been empty this whole time. As I was rationalizing this crap, I turned to look at Knickerbocker Park and felt the need to relive some of my youthful summers. I passed the park gate and made my way to the statue of Diedrich Knickerbocker and sat by the base. I immediately felt all fuzzy and wanted someone here with me to reminisce about all the fun times my friends and I had at this place. I gazed out in a panoramic style and felt like it was still the summer of 08 and me and a few buds were waiting for someone to bring us beers to celebrate the start of the weekend. I looked at the statue and saw the plaque, which had a small group of teens engraved into it. I looked closer at the feel-good plaque and realized the people engraved on it looked a lot like me and Callie. There was a poem engraved above us. Keepers of the future, come before the past remains. The statue was dated 1983, which was weird considering I was born in 1990, and the characters were MySpace pics from 2007. How had I never noticed this before? I reached to my bronze face but was stopped by two smooth hands grabbing my shoulder and turning me around to the face of a woman. The look in this woman's eyes felt like something out of a dream. Even though I didn't know this woman, I felt like I was caught doing something I shouldn't. It was as if I were about to be punished by my mother. It took me a moment to realize I was staring into the eyes of the woman in the distorted pics of my friends and me at the lake and around the town. I was trying to seem like I wasn't about to run home and cry. You're not supposed to be here. She spoke with a firmness that made me wish she had screamed. Her voice made my brain split open a bit. I don't know what you... I managed to choke out. The woman clasped her hands onto my face. You're done here. Get out. The next thing I knew, I was inside a motel room looking out at the crimson sunset with a glass of whiskey in my hand. As I hazily felt the ridges of the glass while trying to piece together where I was spatially, I got a text from a random number. The number was 9 ones and a 0. The message read, "Thank you for your time. Your work is done." This is where I find myself now. The sun is setting and I no longer know which way to go. There seems to be only one road, so I'm going to leave as soon as I get the courage to leave the motel. Has anyone experienced this? What happened to my town?